Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is Speedify Live office hours. Oops, that didn't work. I'll let you take over. What did I do? I maximized that window and it made all of our screens go black. So hopefully we're still live, and that doesn't mean the camera went black. But here we are. So it is Speedify Live office hours. This is your chance to ask us questions. I'm Alex. I'm the CEO of Connectify, maker Speedify, and there's Will.
Hello.
Will is one of the developers working on Speedify, and an awful lot of the OpenWRT stuff. It's this guy right here. So if you've been doing a lot on Linux, good chance you've been running his code. So let's see what is new today. Do we have a question of the day? I don't know.
So Alex, what is Speedify?
Have you tried? What is Speedify? Speedify is this beautiful monster. It is an application that runs on your PC, your Mac, your Linux computer, your router, your iPhone, your Android, and it lets you use all the internet connections you have combined at the same time. So here, I'm Ethernetted into a Comcast cable modem. This is the actual Speedify running on the Mac M1 Mini in front of me that we're using to do this live stream. So Ethernet's going straight into the Comcast cable modem. The Wi-Fi is going to a Miri router running Speedify. I think it's Ethernet's plugged into the same Comcast, but it's a Miri bonding router. It also has 2 cell modems with SIMs for, I think, T-Mobile and AT&T. So in case of disaster, it'll fail over to that. It also has this iPhone tethered. That's the third one, the cellular AT&T. So USB to that guy. And then it's got pair and share going. On the Wi-Fi, it's asking, are there other devices on the network who are willing to share their cellular? And so you have some Samsung, not sure who that is, and my Google Pixel 4a here sharing its Verizon. So we have a ton of internet connections. And the end result, if you scroll in the actual window, not the screenshot window, you can see our 2 live streams here. We are live streaming to Twitch, and we are live streaming to YouTube Live, and Speedify sees that and prioritizes them. Make sure that, if there's latency or packet loss, the streams just go through. So, fun stuff. Of course, you can use it for speed boosts. I think a lot of people are using it for reliability, right? Comcast goes out, and I'm sorry to say Comcast does go out. And you're cool. Just carry on. We'll be on the AT&T, we'll be on the Verizon, we'll be on the T-Mobile. Everything will just keep on trucking despite, various disasters. AI. Change topics. Obviously, we're here to talk about Speedify. If you guys have questions about Speedify, you post them in the comments, and will answer them.
Well, I'll try.
It's a noble goal. Have you guys been trying DeepSeek AI yet? Have you guys been playing with it?
Have you?
I have. Now got my Chinese app installed on my phone. And actually, it's nice. It's an iPhone app. But
nice.
On the Mac now has built-in screen sharing with your iPhone where you can use the keyboard on iPhone apps. So it might as well be a Mac app. So that's kind of nice. It is really good.
Yeah.
It is really good. And so there's a couple innovations here. Anyone mind if I rant for a minute? So DeepSeek is this Chinese private AI company owned by a Chinese hedge fund. So real question. Do you think they're really just owned by a Chinese hedge fund or by the government? Or who knows? Who knows? There's no way to find out. So let's not waste more time. Point is, they're a Chinese company, and they put out an open sourced, an extraordinary new AI, which is more or less as good as ChatGPT's o1. ChatGPT's best AI, and these guys are in the same ballpark. You can argue, is it better, is it worse? It's pretty close. And they put out all the code. And one thing that's really interesting is they did it all with the old chips. They used NVIDIA chips, and they used InfiniBand networking cards, but they're the old ones. Their networking cards only went 100 gigabits. They're A100 and H800s. They're a whole generation behind. They're the ones that, the Biden administration was fine with being exported because you couldn't use them to build a great AI. Whoops. We'll come back to this because we have people asking about Speedify.
Yeah.
Christian says, I intend to use Speedify on a GL.Inet SpitzAX router. I installed it in November on the router and experienced bad performance. My 5G brings about 500 megabits. My cable brings about 250 megabits. But with Speedify active, they're only 90 to 100 megabits. Your support told me you're working on a new version. This will solve these problems. The version shall come in January. When will that be?
Yeah, so there are a couple things that can impact performance on these little routers. Encryption is one of them. By default, we always VPN, and we encrypt all your packets and make sure that your ISP can't do much snooping. But if you're just focused on performance and you don't have hardware encryption, or the hardware encryption isn't too good, then you can disable encryption if you're just interested in the bonding. That should bump your speeds up a little bit. The second and most important thing is for these routers how close you are to the server. So just always double check. We try to make sure that we get servers that are close to you with low latency, but always double check that. And if you have any more questions, chime into support and ask for me or Kevin.
He's Will, of course.
Yeah.
So I think there's going to be a new release today. I know it has some improvements.
Mm-hmm. And performance is always getting better, so
yeah,
there's no harm in.
Interesting. All right, so you're
interesting. Yeah.
So turning off the encryption got you another 5 megabits.
Okay. Yeah. Well, let's take a look at those logs again. Make sure if there's nothing.
That makes me think that it's the extra bits that were slowing that down. Your encryption engine is probably fine. Generally speaking, the GL.Inet, I don't remember the stats on the SpitzAX, but we've played with a bunch of GL.Inet routers. We've gone through the specs on their routers. In general, anything that has an AX in the name is pretty good.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably fine. Yeah, so among other things, we're going to support more ARMs. John's hinting here. Sort of dumb problem, OpenWRT, the installers. You have to say specifically, basically, which chips you support. But Speedify is compiled with the Google compiler stuff to work on pretty much any ARM chip. But with the current version, putting a star there doesn't work. I think it's coming in the future. But so, we're putting out more versions of our installer for different ARM chips containing the exact same binaries. So, entirely.
O-Package, OpenWRT's current package manager, says it's compatible with Debian's package format. But it's not. I mean, there's some things that it doesn't support, and wildcard architectures are one of them. So you can't just say ARM whatever is what we support, although we do. So we just have to be very specific with all of our ARM architectures, and they can get very specific, dozens and dozens of them.
Yeah. So there are other performance increases throughout, but I wonder if the performance enhancing proxy was what somebody was thinking of when they talked to him.
That's
not making this release.
No.
Yeah.
But it will be there soon. Yeah. So that particularly will help. So when you go through the router, there's this MTU hitch. And the performance enhancing proxy will help with that, along with a lot of other things.
There's some neat live view specific stuff in there. If you're not using live view, you won't notice it. If you are using a live view, you will notice, wow, huge performance increases. So yeah, live view guys turned out to be pretty decent about working with us to work out why things weren't more awesome when you combined our two products.
So we can talk a little bit about what I think we did for them, the jitter buffer.
We added a jitter buffer. It's not, right now it is, there's a jitter buffer. So this is a common thing in voice over IP and other live streaming stuff where you can set it. Some of these apps, most apps, if you're transferring files, you want the lowest latency you can get. If you're gaming, you want the lowest latency you can get. But it turns out that for a lot of apps, like voice calls and live streams, you want the most consistent latency you can get. It means you want no jitter, right? Like if you're on a phone call, getting some of the packets through early is not helpful. You just added little gaps in the audio, right? An overlapping gap. You want the sound packets to come in order with no jitter at all. And in fact, it would be better to add 50 milliseconds of latency to your audio to stop the audio from jumping around plus or minus 20 than it is to, lower the average latency by 10. So we've added a jitter buffer. And what this is on each side, if you have the jitter buffer on for specific programs, and right now it only comes on for live view, but we'll be adding configuration support to add it for other things. We try to set the latency to about 150 milliseconds. For a live stream of video, you've got 2 seconds of latency anyway. You won't notice an extra 5% on latency, but it will make the jitter disappear. If your internet connection is going between 30 milliseconds and 90 milliseconds, that'll mess up a live view. But if it just sits at 150 milliseconds the whole time, even though that's worse than 30 and worse than 80, it turns out it's totally fine. It just coasts along, sending the best video it can send. So we have a live view specific jitter buffer. In the coming releases, it'll become a configurable thing where you can set certain programs, certain ports to be jitter buffered and set what the jitter buffer amount is. Right now you can set the amount, but we don't have all the configuration to put it on different programs. So it's a fun toy. We are going to have a Between Two Palms video out. I guess it's actually out about EVs. They're electric RVs. They're electric RVs, EV RVs. Cool new stuff. If you're into RVs, they've got RVs that are smart enough to even though they're not self-driving, to crawl up behind your truck and grab the hitch and lock themselves on, to turn themselves around in the driveway. So you can tell them unhitch from the truck, turn yourself 180 degrees, let go of the hitch, back up a foot, turn itself around, and then you can, because obviously trying to back out of a driveway is a pain in the ass with an RV trailer hooked to your car. So neat stuff. They're starting to get covered with solar panels, and it turns out you need a lot of solar powers to recharge an electric vehicle. It doesn't quite work out. But we can talk about that. We do talk about that. So there's a Between Two Palms video where we talk about that. All right. The next time we're going to be live here is this time next week. So next Wednesday we'll be back. Anyone else have any questions? You guys are kind of quiet today. Just John Christian. What else? The Miri router is out. We didn't bring one in. Rugged professional router.
Yeah.
It has a 5G modem. It has a 4G modem. It has 5G Wi-Fi. It has 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi. It has 4 Ethernet ports. all of which can be configured as internet or as local. And then it has 2 USB ports where you can, plug in phones or extra Ethernet adapters. So you can easily get like nine internet connections on this thing. And then it has pair and share, so you can hook up a bunch of phones and get rock solid internet. And it uses the Sony NPF batteries, and they're hot swappable, so you can just pop a battery on there. It starts running low. You pop in another battery, take off first one, put it on the charger, and you can just go and go and go. It's $1,700 at Miri.tech, and you can drop a link here. It is a nice rugged device. It can be rack mounted, right? It's a big step up from the GL.Inets, which there's a lot to be said for. Little devices at reasonable prices, but if you want multiple SIM cards and the ability to rack mount things and the ability to swap batteries while running, there is nothing like the Miri tech. So, big fun toy. Simple Jack says, finally tested your service in another setup yesterday, and I have to say I love it now. All right. Good to know, Simple Jack.
That's good.
Yeah. So we just continue cranking out improvements. Like I said, a lot of. Do you know when the Miri will be available in Europe? Does it fit in a backpack? I don't know.
It certainly will fit in a backpack, though.
It will fit in a backpack.
Yeah.
May want to play with different antennas. But yeah, it does. It absolutely fits in a backpack. It's a 1/2 width 1U. So if you know the dimensions, an inch and a half tall by 9 inches wide, by 9.5 inches wide.
Yeah, we really should have one over here.
Yeah,
but, it's like
absolutely fits in a backpack. With batteries and all. It's a fun toy. But yeah, Simple Jack, what is your setup? You're saying that you love it now on your new setup. Tell us about the setup. We want to know. All right. Waiting for Simple Jack to tell us. What else? So what's coming this year?
Wow, lots of stuff.
All right, Pixel Baby S, does Miri come with battery? It does not. One of the nice things about standardized batteries, you can pick up batteries, chargers in all sorts of different sizes. Just like on Amazon, right? They sell compatible batteries.
Yeah, they're pretty standard camera style batteries.
I've noticed, some of the lights in the studio here actually use the same batteries. Right there, Sony cameras, a lot of lights, a lot of ring lights and stuff use the same batteries. So you might even have them depending on your setup. One of the nice things I found out, one of the reasons the batteries are this way, I think it's so cool that you can get any battery you want. They're huge, they're little ones, they're huge ones. You can hot swap them. Part of it is that it just the testing necessary, if the battery isn't built in, right? The amount of paperwork needed to import it into a country is much lower because all that stuff about batteries exploding into flames. They're using tested batteries already. So it actually made it simpler to ship the product. But now that they did it, I think it's fantastic. I love swapping batteries, Yeah,
it's come in handy a few times, when we use it. Because sometimes your internet goes out because all of your power goes out. So
yes,
just having a battery there.
Depending on your location, it could be more common.
That's happened here a few times.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. And then the Miri is still kicking.
Yeah, we need to be more careful. We have battery backup on like the Comcast cable modem. We have battery backups on the Miri router. I think there's an Ethernet switch that is not currently plugged into a battery, because when power goes out, our network, some things work and many things fail. We have to be more careful about the power thing. I think there are a few more things that need UPSs.
Yeah.
Like our Starlinks are not on battery backup. The Comcast is, but Starlink isn't. So if the cable gets cut, we fail to Starlink. If power goes out, we fail to Comcast. But it would be nice to have power fail and Comcast fail and be able to go to Starlink. We're not quite there. So I think we need 2 or 3 more UPSs and to really walk around unplugging things and see what fails.
Yeah.
That's, you know.
Yeah, happy you like it.
Go on. Just start my 2nd year with your product. Keep up the good work, guys. All right. Thank you. Oh, Simple Jack answered. Got it running on a small travel router until I managed to get the Miri paid for by my employee.
Nice.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah. How do you like the Miri?
Well, he doesn't have it yet.
Oh.
Until I managed to get the Miri. He wants the Miri. He dreams of the Miri.
Wow. We'll get there.
Will the Jitter Buffer feature benefit online gaming for games that are reliant on stable latency?
Maybe.
If stable latency is the most important thing, it should benefit them. You know, some games that's important, some games lower latency, you know, like, so that's why I think it's important that we expose it as a setting so you can play with it. I don't think there's a simple answer about, you know, which is better for, is it better for gaming to have low latency or low jitter? I think different games, it's going to be a different answer.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to expose that as a setting. You know, you can tweak and say, make this game have stable latency, have this game have low latency. Simple Jack says, I'm using a bunch of old used LTE dongles with it, and we'll look for a cheap T-Mobile contract. So far, I have private O2 plan and a business Vodafone one. All right.
Yeah. So one thing that is on our roadmap, but is really important now, is that your cellular carriers are different ways of bonding.
Yes.
Because there's much less of a chance that you'll end up using the same tower. So.
Yeah. Yeah, we're thinking about if there are ways, and you end up having to write different code for each modem, right? So we may do this for the Miri, but not for some of the others. To actually say, wait, if there are 2 T-Mobile cards, that's okay. Let's try to get them on 2 different T-Mobile towers.
Yeah.
Seems like there's some flexibility there. Yeah. So depending on what you're doing, right? You know, T-Mobile tends to be pretty cheap if you need to get a card. In Germany. So that may be different. So here in the US, there are all those MVNOs, right? Cricket Wireless and stuff like that. Cricket, I know, is actually, and all those are actually, you know, other carriers. And so you can get the other carriers much cheaper by going with one of those. But they all, you know, are secretly rate limited. They're secretly lower prioritized, right? And, you know, it's in the fine print, right? It's cheaper because. So depending on what you're doing, that might or might not be fine, right? I mean, if you're just trying to make sure you're connected to the internet, being connected at sort of low priority, that might be totally fine, you know? I mean, it might be limiting you. Years ago, Cricket, for example, I know they've redone it, so this is out-of-date information. Cricket used to be AT&T LTE with a 6 megabit rate limit. That was it. They just made sure you never got them. If your connection was faster than 6 megabits, the tower made sure you didn't get it, right? You just got 6 megabits. And, you know, depending on what you're doing, maybe that's totally fine.
Yeah, for example, right now our stream is 14 megabits.
Right.
So
yeah, we are. Yeah, we go. Yeah, see, so here it is, 14.3 megabits, and it looks like it is entirely going through the Comcast. Today, Comcast is doing well, so good enough. Just use it. But you know,
shout out to Christian. That's impressive.
10th year of using Speedify. Woo! Yeah. We've been at this for a while, haven't we? So, you know, now it's a couple of years ago, but one day I came in and Kevin came in, sat near me, and he said, you know, last week was my 10-year anniversary here. I said, wait, last week was your 10-year anniversary? Why are you only telling me now? And he said, well, I was afraid that if I let you know, you'd have a cake or something. I was like, yes, I would have had a cake. For God's sakes. So, yeah, Kevin's been here more than 10 years. Crazy, right? All right. Brian says, how about two phones? Force 4G LTE on one phone and allow 5G on another, but the same carrier. Assume that works, so they both get marked primary.
Probably secondary, but
yeah, probably. Yeah, both. All of your connections being secondary is the same as all being primary, right? If it's all at the same level, we deal with it. Yeah, that can work. There's a trick, though. It's not quite as easy as you would think, although there's a good chance of that working. There are 4G bands and there are 5G bands, but mostly there are NSA bands, which are bands where they run 4G and 5G at the same time. So there's a decent chance that if you use 4G and 5G on the same carrier, they stick you on the same band, the same tower. And their plan is to set up more and more bands that are just 5G and move people over to those. But right now, a lot of these are actually the same bands. And so you'll hear people from carriers say, well, if you complain 5G doesn't seem faster than 4G to me, which many people do, people I know at the carriers will say, well, that's because you're not using real 5G yet. You say, no, I'm on 5G. And they say, that's NSA 5G. That's 5G sharing the same band as 4G. Can't go full speed. Like, oh. So we're only sort of partway through the 5G rollout, right? More and more places are going to get real 5G bands. And at that point, picking 4G will definitely put you on a different band. Putting you on a different band probably puts you on a different tower. Even if it's the same tower, it might be different. It'll be a different radio on the tower. And so you're more and more likely to get things added up. But right now there's this NSA thing. It's not National Security Agency. I'm blanking on what it stands for. Doesn't matter. NSA 5G, look it up. It is 4G and 5G on the same band. And yeah, so neither gets the full speed. All right. SpitzAX says, we'll be in the US in April and May, so I can test, pair, and share with my friends. Look forward to it. All right. Yeah. Do you know why 5G modems are so incredibly expensive compared to 4G? Honestly, I don't. My suspicion is because they can get it. A lot of the cost of these things is the cost of the patents and stuff, the cost of the IP, and when 4G isn't the latest thing anymore, those guys cut their prices and take what they'll get. Where meanwhile, the people with the 5G IP are cashing in. I kind of think that's all it is. I mean, I know there's more transistors and stuff, but I don't think that's actually what drives the prices. Yes. Some operators manage LTE and 5G using the same scheduler on their radio access network. It can result in such connections competing with each other for capacity. Yes. NSA. They're using the same scheduler, they're using the same band. They're using the same antenna. And it's, talking to each radio and slicing up the time and saying, well, this radio's a 5G, so during his turn to talk, I'll go to 5G, and then I go back to 4G and talk to that old phone. And nobody is getting the full speeds they would expect. 4G people are slowed down, 5G people are slowed down. But they're working on it. Yeah. It's funny, you might think that 5G is 5G. Like, oh, we've got 5G now, everything's good. And it turns out it was a sort of half 5G they rolled out, announced victory. And now they're working on really bringing the networks up to 5G. So, fun stuff. Yeah, so the Between Two Palms videos, you should check them out. They're on our YouTube. Looks like most of you are on YouTube today. Some of you are on Twitch though. YouTube, Speedify, it's the channel. We got these Between Two Palms, right? So we're talking about the Tesla of RVs. There's this new the Pebble. Really nice. Electric, smart RV trailer. Solar panels. Not quite self-driving, but drive itself around your driveway a little bit, turn itself around, crawl up, grab the hitch. Neat stuff. There's a bunch of others, and it's fun. All right, you guys, that was good. I was happy talking to Brian, SpitzAX, and Christian, John, but I think we're maybe done here. We will be back at this time, or half an hour ago, 10 a.m. Eastern next week, next Wednesday. Save your questions. If you've got questions in the middle, support@speedify.com. We are here for you. And I think that's it. Thank you, Will.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you to everyone who tuned in. And I'll see you all online.